This is Jesse James and welcome back to the channel. This is the last week of August, so this will be the last part concluding the following me all the way through August to see what it's like working as a Harley salesman here at the dealership. Have already got some stuff kind of going for today. Did a little bit of RA preview for a person, and afterwards ended up talking bikes. So ended up talking a good bit of time here on the Heritage with him. This is usually not the bike that I would recommend for somebody starting out, just due to the fact that they might find it intimidating because it is a more traditional style Harley, and with that in mind, people think it's just going to weigh too much for them to start out on. I personally am a big believer in everything's a starter bike if you start on it. And the reason we actually ended up here on the Heritage was for his whole purpose of getting into bikes. It's because his two sons had just went off to the Army, and now empty nest, a little bit more disposable income. He was wanting to do some more two-up riding for him and his wife. So even though right now it wouldn't make sense for him to go over to Heritage long term, this is going to be a better setup for him. She's going to be far more comfortable on a seat like that than on like the Nightster or the Street Bob, which was the two bikes that we were talking about. But he also, whenever he sat on it, was like, oh, this is super comfortable. Was not the first bike we sat on either. Started out on that Nightster. This is a leftover 2024, so more simplified. He really just digged the styling on it. But yeah, did that. That was really all that's happened so far this week. We really got to do some finish strong, because even though numbers-wise with everything, I'm really in an okay spot, but I'm not where I want to be for my goal for the month, which means for this last week, I've got to kind of like just put in double time and some more effort there. I'll break down kind of where numbers are at right now here in a second, and where my mind is to get to where I want to be, which is ultimately at 10 bikes for the month, but right now I'm only at 6. So interestingly enough, story on that, it's a customer of mine from 2023 bought a Heritage from me, but then health took a turn, so he ended up getting a Tri-Glide from, a freewheeler from another dealership. They just fell in love with the color. But every time he came in, even though he bought from somewhere else, I continued just to be cordial. Like, just because somebody buys something from somebody else, like, that's not going to change how I feel about the person. So I'm going to keep talking with them and just keep being friendly, right? So I just said, hey, he and I caught up a little bit, and he started actually describing some issue he was having on his freewheeler, because it had an aftermarket fairing and it was just kicking up a bunch of wind. Showed him a little piece that's on the 2025s. I say it's on the 2025s, but it's actually been around for quite a little bit now on the Tri-Glides, and saying how that might fix his issue for how the wind is kicking up into his face. But while we were talking about that, he actually saw that 2016 Tri-Glide. Now, the parking brake has repeatedly gotten stuck with me on that one, so I haven't had a chance to play around with it. And so I told him this. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be a great fit, because last thing I want for him is to go over to something that's going to be a long-term problem. And so I told him that I just don't know if it'll be a long-term fit. And funny enough, he actually also has started following the channel and started watching some of my stuff there. So thank you for that. That helps a lot. As well as buying motorcycles from me, that helps too. But sat down and kind of showed some numbers, and to the side he said, I don't want to buy this thing until you give your clean bill of health. So for me, I'm going to end up going and riding on it a little bit later, messing around with it, so that I can either give him that or give him the no, it is not going to be a good spot. Because yeah, I've just been burned too many times on stuff for me not thinking it was a good bike to just endorse it that way. But yeah, let's see how it goes from there. And he'll actually be back tomorrow to look at it again himself, and actually bring his trade here so that we can look over it as well. So it is the start of the next day. Gotta get that trike, make sure it's ready for today's appointment. Start off the day by making the coffee for the dealership. Hence that very satisfying or unsatisfying, maybe confusing shot. But forgot to mention that I also talked with another group yesterday. It was actually during the area of time when I'm usually on lunch or editing videos and stuff. He was it was a referral from somebody who had, he bought a bike from me back in 23. But yeah, a buddy that was looking for a bike. I didn't really talk too terribly much, like in depth with him about stuff. We talked a little bit about a pre-owned Ultra Limited we have, but the vibe I was getting from, because he was on a day trip with his buddy, and it just said, hey, let's swing by the Harley shop. So I don't think he was like fully anticipating like really talking in depth about a bike. I think he was just trying to have a good day with the buddy. So I introduced myself, gave him my card, but really didn't go that far into it, because the guy, you could just like body language, he just really wasn't into it. But so talked with 3 different people yesterday, and we'll get ready for that appointment for today. So my appointment came in today, and it played out in a way that you can never really anticipate to happen. He really came in today just because he said he would, to be a man of his word, which I appreciate. But had a family emergency come up, so right now we're kind of just putting a pause on this until that kind of gets sorted or dies down a little bit. But still, came in today, did a little bit of talking about the bike, went and rode on it just to kind of clear his mind some. But yeah, other than that, I'm gonna give him a call later on in the week, and just, you know, it's one thing whenever somebody says like, I need to think about it, and you just say, oh, like, hey, okay, and you never know how that's going to play out. But whenever there's a family emergency like that, I'm a big like, let them take care of that, because that has to come first. So just got done talking with a fella that we were actually looking at this absolutely gorgeous CVO. It's a pre-owned one. I've done a few shorts on this one just because like I'm absolutely in love with this bike. He was also looking at this pre-owned CVO. This one's 2018, a little bit different in style. Now, the reason for looking at the 2 different bikes is actually just because of what was going on with his main bike. His main bike has over 50,000 miles on it, and he doesn't want to get rid of that bike. It's the one that has gotten him around. He's got it set up perfectly for him. He just wants to not be putting as many miles on it because he does like 15K a year. So I was looking for a nice companion piece, had a buddy that said, look at CVOs as a way to go, and just so happened to have a good selection of CVOs right now. So we looked at a few, and the cool thing is, since the years being different between them, they're actually built under different inspirations. So like for this 18, for example, this one's very much just following the big wheel bagger trend that was popular at the time. Like from the 21-inch front wheel. This is, I can't remember the name of the collection of parts across it, but it's got the more sleeked out seat on it as well. So it's a very particular style. Whereas on the CVO Anniversary Limited, not only is it a Road Glide Limited, so it's gonna ride different in that regard, but at this point we were kind of getting away from following the big wheel bagger trend, and we were about to make the transition over to a more performance focus that we have now. But I was telling him, I'm like, you're not gonna find another bike like this, like very rarely, especially whenever there was serialized edition with only that made worldwide. I'm like, this is gonna be a crazy bike just to stumble across. But he had to be making his way off to work, so set an appointment for him to come back in Friday, and we'll see how it goes. So it is the start of the next day, and continuing on with helping with the fellow that was looking at the trike yesterday, called in asking essentially for the Carfax. Now, for motorcycles, there is no specific website like Carfax that'll show you everything that's there. The closest that we got is actually something called Service History Link that is run through all the different Harley-Davidson dealerships. But it's not all of them. You have to opt in. So there are some dealerships out there where they don't report that stuff. And that's also not accounting all the different mom and pop shops out there. But he was asking for that so I can give him a kind of a preview of like what the life of that trike was via the different shops, where it was taken to Harley dealerships, and explain that. Thankfully, this one did have a little bit more going on, and I can explain, hey, this is everything that we did to this, specifically like an itemized list type thing. His plan is to come down today and finalize that, but see how it goes. So, as I often say, just try and meet people where they're at. After his family emergency yesterday, as I told him then, I was just like, at your pace whenever. Like, take care of family first. Able to get it kind of sorted to where he felt comfortable to go forward. Like, really just, if there's one thing I want to continue to stress with this is you do need to, like, push as a salesperson to go and, like, get stuff out. Like, right now I'm considering myself, like, I'm pushing myself this week to, like, talk with more people, but you got to meet people where they're at and do it the right way and you'll be taken care of. So yesterday I got to, show this bike off. Pan America ST just came off the truck, and I got to bring a customer up here, which is our upstairs attic. The way I kind of describe it is every house has its dirty, like not dirty drawer, but like a kitchen drawer where you just end up throwing a lot of stuff. This is ours here at the dealership. We were a little booked up down on the floor downstairs for where we keep bike storage, so we moved some up here. But wanted to look at the Pan America ST, but it wasn't assembled quite yet. So what we did was we actually went and took a demo ride on a Pan America Special. Whole idea was powertrain's the same, see if you like it, because he's actually coming from the sport bike world, thinking of getting more into the Harley side of it. And interested in the Pan America ST. I told him some of the differences, but I wanted him to see if he even liked the powertrain, because if you don't like the powertrain just in general on the Pan America Special, you're not going to like it on the ST. So went out riding, and he likes the powertrain but didn't like the stuff on the Special. So it's going to be coming in tomorrow, because today at the time of recording is Friday. We'll get that bike put together today so that he can come ride on it tomorrow. Funny enough, he actually had come in about, I think he said a year ago. We had a metric bike on the floor at the time, but the salesman did not he set an appointment to come in and look at it. Salesman didn't communicate with him though, because we actually ended up sending that bike off to auction the day before he arrived. So he's given us a second chance with this whole thing, and in his defense, he was totally cool. But I was like, dude, I would have been way more irritated because that person had a whole day to let you know. And he's like, yeah, I know, but it is what it is type thing. So cool, dude. I'm going to make sure though that bike is set up for him so that he can actually get the experience he should have gotten last time. And I told him, at the end of the day, if he rides on that one and he finds it's still not it, because he felt he's like, on the Special, I'm too stretched out, I'm too tall. And I'm like, yep, those are things the ST was built to correct. And I think he'll like that platform, but hey, I could be wrong, and I told him that. He might actually still not like the Pan America at all, but we'll see. So he's going to come in tomorrow. That'll happen late last night. Today, though, still got to try and get a little bit more traction in certain areas, but we're having a solid week, all things considered. Just got to make it happen. So, strange waters, as it were, today. Literally beyond... talking with some people, nothing much has happened. My appointment that I was supposed to actually ride on a few different bikes ended up ghosting me today. Those bug me more than anything else, just because it's just come on, just let me know. But anyways, shot him a text just to make sure that he was okay, and he got back with me. Turns out he said begun his trip down to Atlanta, so see whenever he comes back through. Nothing really can be done in that instance. All right. So absolutely nothing happened on today. Not gonna lie, kind of took all the wind out of the sails of all the work that had been put in for the rest of the week to try and get ahead and make up for early on. But you gotta kind of treat it one day at a time. So can't let today affect tomorrow, which is Saturday. I've already confirmed my appointment for the Pan America ST. The bike's gonna have to kind of speak for itself, and then just see where it goes, and then just work like crazy on the last day of the month. So this is the final bike of August. A bike that I bet a lot of people don't even know was a thing, the Road Glide Ultra. This was back whenever Harley would have different trims and stuff, and essentially when the Road Glide Ultra was even less of around for a more limited time than some of the other full dress touring bikes of its time. But yeah, Road Glide Ultra, where you would be getting the tour pack, but it would not be called a limited. And so you'd have stuff like the more matte fairing and suspension that wasn't to the same par as the limited. Now, this one, off the top of my head, is a 2012, remembering this one. Really wild story for this fella. He had just bought a bike 2 weeks beforehand at another dealership, and some of the things that were said to him and taken care of, like, I'm not going to repeat, because I just can't imagine not just a Harley shop, but just like a business in general with some of the things that were said. But anywho, he just wanted to be done with it, get out of it, so got him taken care of. I don't usually like selling bikes that are still back here in the back, just because it still has to go through service. Good thing on this one, though, it was actually up on the lift getting done. And it's all done and ready to rock and roll. We're just waiting for an ABS sensor for him, and then to get it washed. There's a good chunk of little bug guts on there. But got him over to this setup. Really cool cat. And one of the things for this bike of where was to get him kind of like, it was budget focused, but also this bike has a lot of cool little things on it. Like, it's already got a Rockford system that's pretty well set up with it. Vance & Hines exhaust. He was actually specifically looking for a bike that hadn't been pulled apart, anything powertrain wise. So this was right up his alley. And like, check out that red. I love the color on this. So he was happy out riding, and that makes for August a grand total of 8 bikes out. But 8 was not our goal. So we didn't hit our goal of 10 bikes for the month, which, like, I'm not happy about missing the goal that I set for myself, but at the same time, I'm not letting that kind of defeat me type thing. And the reason being is, early on in my sales career, anytime I didn't hit a goal for myself, I would just get way too in my head. So now the way that I kind of handle that is I'll set a goal for myself of what I would like to do. And if I don't hit that goal, then I'll just simply ask myself, I'm like, hey, are all my bills being paid? Is my family taken care of? Because if the answer to both those things are still yes, then that means that I'm okay, and there's no reason for me to freak out and beat myself up. Look at areas for improvement and then make those improvements instead. So it's more for me of a mental health side of things. But how did our numbers look from August so that we can actually do that getting better? So this is the handy dandy sheet of where we were tracking stuff throughout the month. And down here, you'll notice I've got written 47, 16, 8 out of 12. So what does this all mean? So this is the sheet of paper, and you can ignore through that. I just needed a piece of paper to write something down. This is how I track how I'm doing throughout the month to make sure and like basically see where I'm lacking. I try and have a goal of two greets, so 2 meeting of people and 1 sit per day. And whenever I don't hit that or I overshoot on that, the numbers will fluctuate. Now, for the month, I talked to 3 more people than I needed to hit my goal. But right here, this is the one that, get my camera to focus. That's the one that really hurts me right there, where I was down 3 sits. And the reason being is, actually, I'll leave this focus because this is a great way to show this. I usually average for every 2 people that we sit down and look at numbers, I sell 1 bike. And right there, where I had 16 sit downs and looking at numbers, I sold 8. So that metric was still holding pretty dang well. But where I was down 3 and I needed to sit and look at numbers for 3 other people, if I had gotten those 3, then math being math leads us to believe that I would have sold an extra bike, potentially 2. So then I have to essentially ask myself, why didn't those people sit down and look at numbers? And that is a case-by-case situation. But basically, I know that somewhere in my part of it where it's either could have been something like I had them on the wrong bike, or we were I didn't set expectations, or I didn't correctly, or I didn't show the bike in the right way to build up value, or maybe it was a thing of sense of urgency. Maybe I was too laissez-faire of where I'm just not a person where I'm super pushy. If a person doesn't want to buy a bike, they're not going to buy a bike. And if somebody is showing me and giving me signals of, hey, I'm not really looking to purchase, I'm not going to push, because it's, like, personally, I just think it's rude. But anyhow, anywho, as it were, I know that that's where I need to make a change for this month in order to hit my goal for next month. But yeah, that's the whole month of August. I hope you've enjoyed these videos throughout this month of following me along the whole time to see what happens. But yeah, more than anything, thank you for watching this particular video in general. If you enjoy this type of if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like. Leave your feedback or your thoughts on stuff or what you'd like to see different. If you enjoy this behind the scenes, consider giving it a subscribe, because that's what I do here. But more than anything, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you out there riding.